Sergio Baroni, and I'm delighted today to be speaking with Dr. Risa Caparo, a pioneer in the field of consciousness and somatics, who has just written a book, a wonderful book called Awakening Somatic Intelligence. And we're going to be having a dialogue discussing the implications of this wonderful work. I know from my own experience of the work that it is definitely transforming the sense of spaciousness and depth that I am experiencing through this embodiment. And I wanted to ask you, for the viewers, what do you suggest as the way to simply begin this practice?
It's a beautiful question. Where do we begin?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know, I think for each person it may be a slightly different place according to our own experience and our own longing, really. But I'd say mostly it's not something that we do to get somewhere. You know, it's not a practice that you take on to get to a better moment, like you're going to tense toward that accomplishment, right? So it's much more like you're leaning into this moment, almost the way like a kid leans into tasting ice cream that they love. You know, to find something that you can savor in the tasting of this moment. And in drinking that in, even when the experience isn't some that you might have chosen for yourself, or maybe you have a real aversion to the experience. But it's so often the way that we brace against or try to avoid the experience that produces the suffering, really. And even intense experience can offer us an extraordinary portal into, it's like, how much do we have to open to receive the intensity of that experience washing through us that can bring us closer to a connection to all that is than we've ever imagined. And so finding something in the tasting of experience that we can savor. And in that savoring, recognizing all that we're receiving and somehow opening, in how we open to that experience, we begin to kiss back, you know. And you and I both know that, you know, it feels incredible, right, to be kissed by someone you love, but somehow when you lean into that and your whole being is floating in the yes of kissing back, there's just nothing like that.
Yes, that power of a full, uninhibited yes to our experience, whatever is arising. And it may not initially feel like we're like the direction that we would want to go into if all we're seeking is comfort and safety.
Yes.
But if we can just lean into it with a sense of curiosity, that it can actually begin to transform right before our gaze, right before our awareness.
Yeah.
Something opens.
Yeah, I love this sense that you're bringing in of the curiosity, because really there's only two affective states that we function optimally in, you know, and one is interest, right? Which can just begin with some curiosity and can go to such excitement, right? And the other being joy that can go to an ecstatic state. But the beginning of joy could be just a relief from what we were doing, the kind of tensing up or bracing away from experience. And when we see that, nothing that we're wanting, that's not leading us to anything that we really want, right? And it just stops in the seeing, then the current kind of takes us, right? And so suddenly we're in the flow of joy again, even if the beginning of that joy is just relief from all the straining to get distance from the experience that I'm having.
Yeah, so often in my work, I invite people to kind of dive right into that center of where either a sense of emptiness or fear or resistance, contraction lies within their very body. Oftentimes it can be experienced like almost like we have a black hole inside of our body somewhere, and we're so tensing and resisting experiencing it, feeling it, relating to it in any way. And if we could just let ourselves be more curious and embracing of our entire self,
Yeah.
what miracles can happen from that, what transformation can occur. I'm sure you've countless times experienced those kinds of transformational shifts while working with your clients, yeah.
Well, when you're describing it, the image that is coming to me very much is that kind of like the bird that's hovering above the shadow, or you think about when the challenge to air traffic controllers, like how dangerous when the planes are hovering and they can't, for some reason, bring them down to land, you know, and that sense of what it is like up in the hovering, you know, and it's the avoidance of some aspect of experience, and it's interesting because I have this feeling of navigation that, like as you become more self-sensing, you can begin to feel these psychobioenergetic like vortexes, like you described this black hole, that it's like you're moving along and it's like suddenly you're sucked in, you know, and it's not like you want to be feeling what you're feeling or acting the way you're acting, but this automation takes over, right? And it's like maybe you're like sucking attention, or you're so dependent on an external reflection of yourself to feel okay that like you're sucking that attention. And the ability, even amidst that, to just let it like turn to gravity, and then suddenly you're delivered into the ground of all being, because the truth is it means nothing about you, right? That sort of vortex that sucked you in is a psychobioenergetic and when you just land like fully into the full human experience of this, there's such freedom.
Yeah, it's almost like your whole being can rush back into you from wherever it was being held. It's almost like you were being held hostage on some level, some part of you, some fragment of you.
What you're fearing most, right, or trying to avert, is actually there. In fact, there's a poem that I wrote that maybe I could share now, called Sovereignty, right? And just about that very thing. And it's why scurry about by night sneaking crumbs, hiding behind walls, you've become a mouse inside your own castle. Why manipulate to get what you want when the whole kingdom belongs to you? Is there anything you do to avert shame that does not make you feel small? Heir to the throne, what other time than now to claim your birthright? Stop hovering like a bird above its shadow. Land. Fill the sovereign darkness with you.
So beautiful, and it so captures I don't want to use the word captures, it so resonates with that, all that you teach, which is so much about that coming home into oneself fully and deeply and resting as oneself. And that sense of sovereignty, that sense of deep knowing authority of being, when we're truly ourselves, then we can let go of struggling against ourselves or struggling, efforting to be maybe like someone else.
We don't have to anymore protect or uphold or defend against something that we don't want to see because it triggers shame,
right?
Because it's not about us anyway, right? And once we break that attribution, because when these automations happen that are driven by these shame scripts, it's not like we're doing it anyway. We make that attribution, but it's a false attribution. Like we say, oh gosh, I can't believe what I did. You know, it's like as if I did it, but it's not like I intended to do that, or, you know, I woke up thinking like, oh yes, let me see, how uncomfortable can I be today?
Well, it reminds me.
And how uncomfortable can I make you, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of the notion of many of us having the experience of going through life with the accelerator pedal down to the floor at the same time that the brake pedal is down, and we're, you know, lurching and stopping and sort of resisting and creating so much friction within ourselves, because either we're really trying to experience flow while the brake is on, and there's some kind of unconscious resistance and all that friction and tension that it creates, or we're trying to just lurch forward, but in a way that disallows us from experiencing that quality of awareness that can really allows us to savor life and to savor the moment and really be here, instead of always trying to like rush to a better moment.
Some accomplishment.
Right.
In time, you know, that sense that we're going to get through this effort we're making to something better.
Right.
And this is one of the biggest sort of illusions that we, I mean, it's, to me, it's like this beautiful, like, red flag, that it's like, whoa, you know, are you sleeping again? Because you're imagining this time, you know, that things are going to get better, right? Or that, and there's effort, so you're creating this psychological time and straining, really, to accomplish something in that time, when the only thing we have is this moment.
So to just really, what you're speaking of then is an invitation to let ourselves really deeply settle into this moment through this quality of sensing deeply from the inside out and welcoming whatever we encounter there, without tensing toward or away from any aspect of our experience.
I mean, if you knew that you had just one more moment to live, how would you live that moment? How would you receive what's arising in that moment? And how is it that you can taste that as fully as you can, right?
Yeah, even now, there's a quality of stillness that has opened up as you were speaking that allows for this sense of just a wide open witnessing to the miracle and the beauty of life.
Yes.
The privilege of just being here
Yes.
as intelligent, sensitive beings that we are.
That's our natural state, I think, is of gratefulness. Because in the tasting, we are, it's like as we open to the tasting, I feel that in each breath, becomes a portal, because when I know that without making any effort, stardust from the most distant stars actually come to nourish me with their life force, and I have to do nothing but receive that gift, that in, the moment that I exhale, it's like my whole being is like, yes, it's like kissing back to all of that. And so presence now has the spaciousness of kind of the space between all the stars, rather than this identification with this little sense of self that is from the outside in, like, oh, I'm this object sitting here, rather than.
Yeah, it's like space becomes conscious within us, and it comes through then in a way that really informs and lights up our entire life in a new way.
If in this moment I can sense, taste, drink in, and kiss back to the infinite as the beloved, as close as my very breath.
I really get the quality of that you are speaking of the divine as the beloved, that the divine allness is really here, holding us, embracing us, presencing as us. And if we could just slow down enough to just feel and savor it, and allow us to feel so loved and so embraced, and so that we are this cosmic lover. We are loving existence right back and extending ourselves completely toward it, holding nothing back, just a full, big, resounding yes.
Life loving itself, yeah.
Oh, it's so delicious. You really have kind of taken me into, hopefully everyone that's witnessing and watching this, hearing us, can also feel themselves invited into this quality of being the beloved, embracing ourselves as the beloved, holding ourselves as the beloved, with just so much sweetness, so much tenderness. And in this space, there's so much space and stillness to be all that we are, without any conflict, without any effort.
And nothing to do. And yes, most likely we'll lose it again, right? Because something will trigger some automation. And it's not that we'll do that, right? But the automation will come and reclaim this moment, and we'll no longer be present in it. And in seeing that, if we become interested and we stop because we see the automation take over, so we're not going to keep feeding it, then the current will just carry us again, right? And so we can go through this beautiful process of mastery that happens from losing ourselves and finding ourselves, and then losing ourselves and finding ourselds, and eventually we have this tremendous mastery at being able to return to the moment, you know, in such an immediacy that it's this sort of fluid, self-renewing, self-organizing intelligence that's responding, right?
Yeah, and I get this sense that when you're describing it that way, that all we have to do time and time and time again is just bring ourselves back again, return back to this space of now, of here, and that quality of self-forgiveness and openness to life. Here is life again. Here I am again. Here I am again. And that it really opens us up to a kind of timelessness, where it's not about how many times have I fallen today, how many times have I fallen from grace, how many times have I erred, but really just a complete acceptance of however many times I've been off.
Well, even who's counting?
Who cares? I'm right here again.
Again, that wakes us up to, we're identifying with this image self, you know, and attributing that I'm doing it. And when these things happen, I'm not doing it at all.
Right.
It's these automations.
Right.
Right. Then this, a deeper movement can express itself, and in that movement, which has these characteristics of being self-organizing and self-renewing, that movement is compassionate and empowered and creative, and I can recognize it in the freedom and aliveness that I feel.
So I continue to orient toward that experience of freedom and aliveness as it opens in this moment. And let go of trying to hold on to any aspect of it.
Yes.
Just allow it to just make space for whatever is there, and keep opening and opening and opening to that until it naturally transforms into freedom, aliveness. There's no more tension, there's no more holding, there's no more grasping, there's no more even identifying with the chattering or the tensing mechanism in the brain. That's just a happening. And it's not me. And I don't have to do anything about it. I just continue to source myself here again and again as just this curious presence, this being that just naturally wants to open to life and allow life to come through. Yeah, it's such a sweet sensation to arrive here again and again, to touch down here.